This is a problem for foundational exam number 2 for Math 6LA. So the problem will be about someone walking from one point to another, and you have to select the best description of a mathematical variable to represent what's going on in that situation. So it'll say something like, Vanessa walks 63 feet from her front door to her mailbox. Which of the following best describes a variable describing Vanessa's position as she walks? And so, okay, well, to describe what could be going on, the most natural choice would probably be to have D represent the distance between the door and Vanessa's current position, and then 63 minus D would represent the remaining distance Vanessa has to walk to get to her mailbox. And both of these numbers would be representing some amount of feet. And that works perfectly fine. And the most common mistake is that people kind of immediately assume this one and then try to solve the problem, try to work out what the distance D should be. And that's kind of the trick of this is kind of when most math problems you've encountered up to this point, all the variables are fully described for you. But this now, describing the variable is the challenge, not solving for a variable. So for example, you could give another perfectly good description of a variable by saying, okay, let's have the variable D represent the distance remaining for Vanessa to walk. And now it would follow that 63 minus D has to represent the distance Vanessa has walked. And again, that's just because both of these numbers have to add up to 63 feet, the total distance between the front door and the mailbox. We're assuming here that Vanessa is walking in a perfectly straight line. You could also change the units, and you could say, okay, let's let D represent the distance Vanessa has walked in yards. And that's still a perfectly good, mathematically rigorous, consistent choice of variable. Just now you'd have to make sure that the distance remaining you're representing as 21 minus D, because now these two numbers shouldn't add up to 63. They should add up to 21, because I think I've done that right, but 63 feet is 21 yards. Then you could do the exact same thing flipped, where D represents in yards the distance remaining for Vanessa to walk. So all four of those perfectly good descriptions of variables. And now choice number 5 here is a bit of a silly one, but you could have 63 minus D represent the distance remaining for Vanessa to walk in yards, which is weird because 63 matches up with 63 feet here, but you could pick this left side to be D minus 42. And now sure enough, if you add both these numbers together, you get 21 yards, which is equal to 63 feet. So choice 5 here is non-intuitive, like it doesn't match up with your intuition for what's going on, but it is a mathematically consistent and well-defined choice of variable. And so when you have a list of possible descriptions, so I've written out like 3 possible answers that'll be on this problem, you're not trying to solve for anything. You're trying to pick the answer that is the most specific. So for instance, if something said, let 63 minus D represent Vanessa's distance from the mailbox. Well, that doesn't actually tell you which of these 5 choices of variables we've made, because, well, we have 63 minus D here, and we also have 63 minus D here. We don't know, though, whether we're using yards or feet. And so this answer here is not specific enough. It needs to tell us what units we're using as well. Similarly, you might have an answer that says, okay, let D represent Vanessa's distance in feet. And again, it's natural to look at that and say, oh, distance must mean here to the front door. But it doesn't have to. There's perfectly good choices of variable where D represents Vanessa's distance in feet, but to different locations. So for instance, here, D represents Vanessa's distance in feet to the front door. Here, D represents Vanessa's distance in feet to the mailbox. So again, this answer is not specific enough because it doesn't actually have enough information to tell us what choice of variable description we've made. And so this last one here, let 21 minus D represent Vanessa's distance in yards from the mailbox. And so finally, this description does narrow it down to exactly one choice, and that's choice 3 here. And so again, it's tempting to try to like solve for which one of these choices or solve for the value of D. But it's not about having any one specific description of variables or about solving for what those variables are. The point of this problem is to learn to be specific about how you define a variable. And so it's the choice that's going to specify both a location and units that's going to be the correct answer.